All right, hey everybody, how's it going? So we're here live with Paul John Hansen. He was a former legal advisor for Kent Hovind. He, as far as I understand, saw Christopher Jones in bed with Zaire. We're also here with Mark Stoney on camera, who is what do we want to say? Mark is a former employee of Kent on his ministry campsite,
Well, I wouldn't
and
I wouldn't say I was an employee. I never took a
a
paycheck.
former worker
Yeah,
on the
volunteer. Right.
volunteer worker. Right, right. All right. So Paul, how are you doing?
Good, good.
Would you like to
Very.
introduce yourself or anything, or is there anything we'd like the audience to know about kind of you or sort of a
Yeah,
legal
I'm
advisor?
I'm
And
almost 64. Pretty much retired, and I actually went down to help Kent. I started helping Kent Hovind in close to 2008 with legal matters. Showed him how he could easily win his case with the IRS. He ignored me and took advice of the attorneys, and the attorneys
mhm.
sold him out, and he lost his case. That's how I got affiliated with Kent, and
Okay,
I do very little with Kent's ministry now, but I'm primarily a legal researcher. I write briefs for basically constitutional limitations for people all across the nation on the internet, and I just charge $35 to $70 an hour for my services, and I'm mostly retired, so I only do that about 2 or 3 hours a day,
okay. Well,
and
just so you know,
that's about
we're
it.
like I'm really not too focused on Kent Hovind. I'm very interested in Zaire, who's gone missing, Christopher Jones, the Predator, and details pertaining to that, which Kent has connections to. But my main focus is Christopher Jones, Zaire, and where is Zaire? What happened? You are you were there when Christopher Jones was there in bed with Zaire, and you witnessed that, right?
Yeah, I completely object that Chris Jones is a predator. I studied his case. He was charged with a whole bunch of stuff. The police gathered the information together. The judge actually said that this information was coached, and vast majority of his charges were not proven in court, and the jury didn't find him guilty on it. And he was charged. He was ultimately charged with actually a no touching issues, and the lightest you can ever get. In most states, it's not even prosecutable, and I believe that he was essentially framed into the situation he was placed into. Some high level investigators went in that I respect greatly and investigated the case, and they said, "Yeah, you're just being set up. They need a person to prosecute, and you're going to be the guy that they're going to do it to." But
Okay. Well, what about
uh,
Zaire? You witnessed Chris in bed with
as
Zaire.
far as evidence of Zaire going missing, there's no evidence of Zaire missing. Just because he left Dinosaur Adventureland and has chosen not to come on the air and talk about anything, that doesn't mean he's missing. But Zaire, Chris Jones, I'm friends with Chris Jones because he is uh, a person that did great things for people that he's not allowed to talk about, and he risked his life, and I consider him a hero. Um, a lot of his material is out there, but not under his name, exposing basically the Illuminati type class, sex ring and things like that, and Satan worship and things like that. But so I became friends through that, and he contacted me years ago, and he wanted to understand how maybe I could help him overthrow his case because it had a lot of errors in it, and I truly agree with him on that. But so we became friends, and he loves the Lord, and he's a dear friend of mine. I just greatly enjoy fellowshipping with him. He did some stupid things in the past. Should have never. He had a he had a he had friend neighbors that he would watch the kids for, and two of the kids were kind of problem kids, and another kid was a Down syndrome. No, not. I don't think he was Down syndrome.
Autistic,
Autistic.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's autistic. And one day they went swimming, and they took the autistic kid's clothes away from him, and he ran around the swimming pool naked, trying to get his clothes back. And Chris found out about it, and he just tried to be creative and try to teach these guys a lesson and try to make this autistic kid feel a little bit better. So he started a strip poker game, and he made sure that the autistic kid won. And the other kids never did strip down; they just got down to their underwear. And he said he's been with these kids for like 6 or 7 years since they were little kids. They were running around the house naked all the time anyway, which he always told the parents, I wish they wouldn't do that when I'm here. But anyway, he just made the autistic kid feel like he was winning the game, and he was trying to teach them a lesson that, see, it's not no fun to be in a group of people and have your clothes off. And but they were down to their underwear and socks, I believe, and the game was over, and nothing ever came of it. But anyway, the police came around because
Paul,
they were investigating another case.
You
Let me
can't say
finish my
nothing
story.
came of it. Okay, yeah, but you can't say nothing came of it because a conviction did. But anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, nothing became of that with anybody involved with the parents and stuff. And so one of these kids, either a neighbor kid or one of these kids, he molested a neighbor kid, and they went in and talked to him. And
Paul, can
basically,
you clarify? You say he. Can you clarify what you just said?
Yeah.
I don't know his name, but
you're not talking.
Anyway,
about Chris. You're not talking about Chris,
no,
right? Can you
no, not Chris.
Can you just restart that sentence because I didn't? I missed what you said.
One of the neighbor kids. There was evidence that he molested one of the kids. Somebody in the neighborhood molested a kid. So they started talking to these kids, and they said, you know anything about anything? And one of the kids mentioned the strip poker game. So they got hot on the trail, and they basically, the kids actually talked to Chris. I was told that they talked to Chris, and the police coached them to say various things so they could prosecute Chris, which they found out later wasn't even true. But anyway, they ended up prosecuting Chris, and they, like I said, they got the lightest charge you could possibly get. And now he hopes to go in. He'd like to have these kids come forward and say that how the police actually coached them to say what they'd said, because they actually changed their stories a number of times. And the police record of these conversations they had with these kids, you could see that the stories were changed completely. Is just almost reversed. And
Paul,
so he's trying to get these kids to come forward now, being much older, to actually confess to what the police did to them. But go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Is there a link or somewhere we can look at this evidence? Because this is stuff I've never heard of. I've never heard of the kids coming forward and changing their testimony. As far as my research into Chris Jones has concluded that he did have an appeal, and it wasn't even based on there was no denial of guilt even in the appeal. It was just, hey, this process was mishandled. And
there's no reason to deny. Appeal isn't a denial. Appeal is to just look at the facts, and he was trying to prove that there's not enough facts, and there was due process violations to complete the court's jurisdiction.
Well, the appeals court did find that there were no procedural errors. Everything was done in proper format and everything.
I disagree.
Okay.
I just disagree on that, because the police are not allowed to see. Chris was not allowed to enter the evidence that all these police took all these interviews, and it shows the conflicting testimonies of these children, young people, and that's enough evidence right there to throw the case out. But the court would not allow that to go before the jury.
I think it would be important to be able to review, that testimony, those documents. But, I think you mentioned something about only having an hour before, and you said something along the lines of Chris has done many stupid things in his past. And I think this interview is going to be more geared towards what happened in November of 2019. I've got, I actually have our text message exchange.
I can go straight into that now.
Okay, so I'll let you and Adam take over from here, and I've got the text message on the screen here. So
I appreciate Paul. I appreciate you giving the background and everything, but yeah, my primary focus is a lot of people, whether you agree, feel that Zaire is missing.
Yeah.
And is there any evidence you can provide of any way to contact his family, a last name, any photographs of Zaire, any real name, if Zaire is even his real name? The only thing I've seen is the November 25th, 2019 short clip on Kent's channel where he comes on camera. Is there anything you can provide to substantiate your claim that there's nothing wrong here?
Except that you got a person that's a felon that is in the all these mediums. There's a picture of the boy, and you're telling me that nobody's called the police and nobody's asked to search this down, hunt this down. They know where Chris. They know where Chris lives.
I certainly have.
I think it's silly to think that the police haven't already resolved that this is a rabbit's trail.
Well, one of the issues, Paul, and Adam brought it up, is nobody knows if that's the boy's real name, no last name, no contact information, and that's kind of the hang up for the police as well.
Also, Paul,
well, why haven't? But you got to remember, I've told many people that I've seen this. I gave the guy a ride on my scooter. I was there when all this happened, and not one police officer has called me. So that tells me that they're not investigating this. It's not a problem to them.
Okay.
There are audio recordings of people trying when Chris Jones was there. There's audio recordings of people on the staff attempting to contact Zaire's parents, and they were unable to.
No. Why do you think that is? The reason it is they don't want to be contacted.
Everyone that is following this online have seen no evidence whatsoever that Zaire's parents were ever contacted, and for some reason you're claiming that. Mark, didn't Paul say that he?
No. Kent says he talked to his mom.
Yeah, but we don't believe Kent. We want evidence, not claims by the people that are complicit.
Yeah. Okay.
Kent is a proven liar over and over.
Well, and Kent is complicit in this. Okay. You guys are the ones that are accused of being involved with this. We want evidence outside of you, Kent.
I wouldn't. If my son went camping with Chris and this thing blew up like this, I wouldn't tell you. I wouldn't give you my name either.
You don't have a son.
I wouldn't want somebody going to my son's. I wouldn't want my son going to high school, and somebody says, "Jimmy, what were you in school with the convicted sex offender for? I mean, what were you in bed with the convicted sex offender?" I wouldn't want my son to go through that when I very well knew that my son has known this guy for 6 or 7 years. He's babysitted him for thousands of hours, possibly. There was no problem at all. I wouldn't want my son to be exposed to that.
Well, Paul, let me respond to that. And no, I don't mean any offense when I say this, but you're not a father. You don't have any children, so I don't think you can speak with any level of authority on what you would do in that situation. But also, it's kind of a moot point because the facts of the case are in the public's eye. The last time Zaire was seen was on Kent Hovind's YouTube channel. I know that Julie has come out and provided testimony that she saw Chris leaving with Zaire. But other than that, that's it. That's the end of the road. That's the end of the story. And it's a great concern
that's all people are entitled to. Chris didn't break any laws by going down there.
I disagree with that.
It wasn't against the law of Chris. Well,
I've had
people investigated. There was no. I haven't seen any evidence that Chris is in violation of any law. I'd like to look at it.
It's actually a felony. I think it's a Class C felony in Alabama for a registered sex offender to sleep under the same roof without any kind of supervision. It is actually a Class C felony, so Chris could be looking at felony charges there, and Kent Hovind could also be looking at conspiracy. Because
Kent didn't have anything to do with this.
Can I get to the next question, please?
Yeah. Please.
But you got to remember, Kent didn't have anything to do with this. He was staying with me at the place I was staying at. Okay, go ahead.
Kent did arrange to put him in the house with one bedroom, right?
No, I did that.
Oh, you arranged from
That
that.
house
Okay.
was
So
under
I have a
my
question.
that house was under my control.
So Zaire was found in bed
Uh,
with Christopher Jones on the 23rd of November, and then they left on the 27th of November. So where did Zaire sleep those other nights?
okay, Cindy bought a house, and they were refinishing the floors, so there was
Paul,
very little furniture
Cindy
in the house.
Cindy didn't buy the house until December of that year. The house was still in Mia's name. It hadn't been purchased. Kent Hovind still had
okay,
control of it.
but the house was if I was there,
You were
there
there.
was very little furniture in the house,
You were there.
and nobody. No, I mean when I should say when I was there, there was the owner of the house wasn't living there, and the
Mia
house
Voss.
was. Per, oh yeah, Nia Voss. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Because the house was
So
under
Paul, where was
construction,
Zaire sleeping
and
the other nights that he was visiting Dinosaur Adventureland? Where did he sleep those other nights?
I believe Chris always stayed at that house, and I would assume the first night that he was staying there is the night that he got scared and went in, and he got up probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night and went into Chris's room and said, "This is what Chris told me." I just bought a new fold out pup tent that sets off the ground, and I was testing it out. I was just parked right out front of the door. I had an RV there too, which was right beside it too. And anyway, so I went in, and we went in, and I said, "Okay, here's a place for Zaire. Here's the couch. Looks like it's big enough for him." I think I pointed to the couch. There might have been another mattress in another room, but I'm not for sure. But definitely, there was a couch there. And then I said, "Chris, okay, here's a room in the back, kind of like a master room, and mattress on the floor." I said, "Okay, this will do." And I didn't think much of it. I figured Chris would sleep in the back, and Zaire would sleep on the couch. And then Chris said that late in the night, Zaire came in and says Zaire was always used to sleeping with his family, and he came in. He says, "I'm scared. I'm not. This house is scary, and I just never slept in a room by myself. And can I come in with you?" And Chris says, "Yeah." So the queen size bed, just like a camping situation. Zaire had all his clothes on, and he laid right down beside him. I mean, this is what I assumed happened, because I never seen Zaire even take his tennis shoes off. If I remember right, he always just laid around the house with all his clothes on, which is fine with me when you're camping. But camping out at somebody's house. And then Chris said that he called his mom. Now, the only way that Chris could call his mom is with a cell phone. So all those conversations are on his cell phone. The government's got that. If it ever went to court, those tapes could be brought out, and you could listen to the conversation. Or Chris would have to admit that, okay, he didn't call anybody. But anyway, so so I got Zaire rigged up on the bed, and I got Chris in the bedroom. I probably gave him some blankets out of the RV. It was in the summer, so they didn't need much. I don't know if we were running the air conditioner, but
Paul,
and then I
Paul,
went out. I went out.
I,
Oh, go ahead.
I got to point something out real quick. You're saying that, well, Kent especially is saying that the mother was called and was given permission to stay in bed with Chris. But in the text messages between you and I, when I asked, you know, where's the boy going to be staying? Your response was, "I'll trust that he has his own bed tonight because I'll walk into the house unannounced occasionally." Now, why would you trust that he had his own bed if his mother had granted permission to be in the bed with Chris Jones? Why would it be a problem?
I don't. The bed that wasn't granted till way late. I've already gone to bed, and
No, this is the next
Zaire.
day. This is after the fact.
Well, I guarantee you that after I seen Chris Zaire in that bed, that under my supervision, that Zaire never was in that same bedroom as Chris again.
Where did Zaire sleep after that, Paul? They were
I
there
would
from the
only
23rd
assume on the
to the
couch.
27th. So what did you do
I
to
would
ensure
only
that that didn't
assume
happen again? What did you guys do? What arrangement you arranged for where they were sleeping?
Well, I guarantee that I was not.
Where did Zaire sleep after that?
Now listen to me.
Let's not talk
Listen to me.
over each other.
Listen to me. I guarantee you that I was not going to allow any boy to sleep in Chris's bedroom.
Well,
So
Paul, I think it's a fair question. I think it's a fair question to ask.
I'm answering the question.
Well,
how long ago did this happen? I can't remember. I can't remember if Zaire stayed 2 nights or 4 nights. I can't remember, but I know that one night I went in, the door was open. I said, Chris, what is Zaire doing in the bedroom? He's got his own place to sleep out here.
So, Paul,
you know,
that as Robert Beatty points out, that was not in the summer. This was Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah,
this was
November 24th.
So the 28th was Thanksgiving.
It's summertime down in Alabama year round.
No.
Okay.
But anyway.
Sure.
Anyway, so as far as I would assume,
so you just
that was
remember.
the first night.
You can't remember.
No, I can't remember.
Assume.
No. Yeah.
That's very convenient.
But Chris was never at that cabin. Never. Those guys were never at the cabin by themselves. I was always there. We were hanging out together all the time.
Paul, can you see what's on the screen? I have a PDF of our text messages from that time, and this was after you had already told me that you found him in bed. You said it was really dumb and unspeakable, all that. So
sure.
I'm sitting there just fuming over this, and I don't know what to do because Kent had told everybody to not say anything about it or you're gone. Well, your response to me was, I'll trust, which is consistent with what you're saying now, saying you'll assume. But you said, I'll trust that he has his own bed tonight. And this is the night after you walked in. And then you said, because I walk into the house unannounced occasionally. So when Adam asked, where is Zaire the rest of the time there, I think it's a fair question to ask.
I made sure that Zaire was not with Chris.
So where did he sleep then? Was he sleeping with you?
I would assume on the couch.
Was he sleeping with
No.
Where was he sleeping?
Never with me. On the couch, I assume, because I think that was the only other place he could sleep.
There's no I assume. Where did you make sure he slept? Why was Christopher Jones allowed to stay there?
He did not sleep with Chris.
But
he did not sleep with Chris.
Where did he sleep?
He might have slept in the bathtub. He might have slept in the sink. I guarantee that I don't remember. I assume it was on the couch.
Yeah, okay. That we'll go with that. You can't.
All I know it was not in the master bedroom where Chris had his bedroom.
Okay.
All I know is it wasn't there.
Okay, so
on my watch.
All right, I want to go back to
I went in numerous times. I'd go in and use the bathroom. There was no cover up. Chris agreed with me. Yeah, that wasn't the smart thing to do.
But Paul, that doesn't make sense when the story is coming from Kent and then Chris and you saying that he called his mom and said it was fine.
I went to Kent the next day. No, I went to you the very next day and said, this is a really stupid thing that Chris did last night. The very next day I called you, I believe. Does that make sense?
You texted me
chronologically.
I'm looking at the text message you sent me the next day.
I was mad. I was mad, and I was going to make sure this didn't happen again because this is stupid.
What did you do to ensure that it didn't happen again, Paul?
I was there all the time. I was going in and out of the house all the time.
Okay, so I want to point something out is that Kent Hovind...
I wasn't concerned that something was going wrong. I was concerned that we didn't want an appearance of anything going wrong because I talked to Zaire probably 15 minutes or half an hour after Chris, and I noticed that he was in the bed the first time. Chris is laying on his side, Zaire's laying on his side, just like any other people would go camping together. Not a problem at all. The big problem is Chris. You've got this thing over you. You got this cloud over you. What is he doing in your room at all? This is really stupid. So I talked to Chris. I talked to Zaire after that, visited with him. He didn't have a hint of an issue.
Okay, so Paul, that's not what I heard.
Paul, I'm sure I talked. Just let me finish. Then you can tell me what you've heard.
Okay, please finish.
I didn't notice any blinking of eyes, any body language, nothing, not even a hint of a problem. But I'm sure I told them both, Zaire, you got to sleep out on the couch or wherever the other mattress was. I don't remember. I don't have that great a memory on this stuff. I didn't think I had to remember. And Chris, we've already talked, Chris. You know what I'm not going to allow. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Mark's testimony is that you told, actually, I think this is Mark's testimony, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
Zaire and Chris were found in bed together in their underwear, wrestling. Chris had his hands on Zaire, and Zaire was scared.
No.
And also that Christopher Jones had an erection.
No. Nope. Somebody had a dream that never came out of my thoughts ever.
Mark, can you confirm that was
not once.
What Paul told you?
That is my recollection, yes.
And that Mark, you claimed that Paul had told another person this same story, correct?
Yes.
This version of the story. So, Paul, can you please respond to that? Because that's
either they had a dream about it.
You also later made it up and said there was shorts. It was gym shorts instead of underwear.
Yeah. I still absolutely remember seeing Chris first 3 steps out of the bedroom. He had shorts on that looked like underwear. First glance, just like I have on right now. But I found out later when I went and talked to Chris, he showed me what he was wearing, and it looked exactly like I seen him walk out of the bedroom. I go, oh, okay, those are shorts that you normally wear.
Yeah, so and I do remember having that conversation.
So at first you did think it was underwear, and later you.
I've never told anybody. I guarantee that if I seen anything that looked like a pencil or a screwdriver in a pocket, it looked like an erection, I would remember it because that would just be cemented in my mind. And there was nothing like that. And they were not. There was no wrestling in the bedroom. That wrestling occurred in the living room when I looked through the window, and they were just wrestling on the floor. And I told Chris, I said, Chris, you got this sex thing over you. You don't wrestle. I said, I don't care if the kid wants to wrestle or not. You just don't do that. That's stupid. I said, don't do that. And Chris said, okay. And I thought it was really stupid for a man that's been convicted of any sex crime. I don't care if it's taking a piss behind a tree. You can in Nebraska, you can get a sex crime for taking a piss behind a tree, and be a sex person record the rest of your life. But and if that's the case, you never wrestle with a kid the rest of your life. That's something that you just don't do anymore because that's on your record. Okay, that's what I told Chris.
It's not a matter of stupid. It's a matter of the safety of these children is what I think we're concerned about.
Well, anyway,
I've got a clip I want to play.
There's nothing wrong with Chris wrestling. There's nothing wrong with Chris wrestling that boy until
you just now said that it was.
Listen to me.
All right.
There's nothing wrong with Chris wrestling that boy until there's a sex charge hanging over you. Then it's completely off limits. Right. And that was the case.
Yeah. So I want to play this clip. This is from the recording that you took, Paul, of the meeting the day after I left. And I think I've got it queued up where it needs to be. I'm going to have to mute my mic so we don't get any feedback. So I'm just going to let this play.
It had nothing in it but a mattress on the floor and a table or something. Not unfurnished house. Chris and Paul and this boy Zaire stayed the night there. In the middle of the night, Zaire he came to get baptized and had a wonderful time at Dinosaur Adventureland. So Paul was sleeping in his little camper outside. The doors are open. Nothing's hidden or closed. Nothing hidden or secret. So when Zaire got scared and came in and said, Chris, can I stay with you? Chris said, let me call your mom. Mom, he knows the family well. Mom, is it okay if Zaire sleeps with me? Oh, yes, please do. He gets scared easy. So they both laid down, fully clothed, opposite sides of a queen-size mattress. Paul comes in the next morning. There they are, still on opposite sides of the mattress, sleeping in their clothes, door wide open. End of story. Why on earth would Mark or whoever doing it start these crazy lies about, is his mind full of pedophilia? Is that what's running through his mind all the time?
Well, I was just wondering if it was true or not. Paul, did you see Chris in bed with the kid? I'm sure that's true. I'm just wondering if that's true.
I've seen Chris wrestling with a kid, which I didn't think was appropriate, because you just when there's any slightness of that, you don't do that.
So, yeah,
I'm pretty sure I did, and I said no more of that.
Let Chris give us a event.
But just to clarify, it
Yeah,
wasn't a kid
yeah.
from Dinosaur Adventureland.
I know.
It was my friend, a kid that came up there with me.
And you're allowed to have friends that are kids, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they know the charges, they know everything.
Oh, I remember. I was mad at Chris.
By year, yeah.
I was mad at Chris because I got up and I said, Chris, what's he in your bed for? You got these charges. What the heck are you in bed with a kid for? I'm completely dressed.
But
wrestling.
It was also the only bed in the house. It's
Yeah,
not like he had
but
a bed
anyway,
to be in.
I was just like, you couldn't convince me then that you should have done that. And,
See, the way people say things, he was in bed with a child.
yeah,
There's a way to make it sound worse than it is,
I know, but Chris
Right.
has to remember, you don't get close to that fire.
But wait a minute, now, there's two things to consider here. That's Chris's decision and the kid's decision. How people here react to that is their decision. Okay? He's got a right to wrestle with the kid if he wants, and you got a right to say, I'm not getting around Chris. Okay. I horse around with the kids all the time
But
with wrestling.
It was also the only bed in the house. It's
Yeah,
not like he had a
but
bed
anyway,
to be in.
I was just like, you couldn't convince me then that you should have done that. And,
See, the way people say things, he was in bed with a child.
yeah,
There's a way to make it sound worse than it is.
Yeah, some of that was a little edited, but it's that was only at the very, very end, kind of repeating what
Yeah.
Kent had said. So, yeah, just
you got to remember, when I said they were wrestling, I was in the mindset that I was going to get a finish my conversation. That at one time I seen him wrestling, told Chris I don't like that. I can't remember if that was before the bed incident or after. I would assume it's before, but I'm not for sure.
In that
I'm
recording,
almost
they said
positive it
the
was
same
before,
time.
because I think I would have been even more mad if Chris was in the bed and then found wrestling later on, because Chris, I chewed him out good, So I looked through, I went into the house, and you just look through the windows. There's no curtains on the windows. I think the place is just under construction pretty much, and you can just see right in. And Chris and the kid were on the middle of the living room. I think there's a big throw rug, and just wrestling around. Nothing cuddly or anything. Just grabbing each other's wrist and pushing each other down. And just like I've done with my dad and my brothers 1,000 times, and my cousins, and my not my uncles, but I can say that. But
anybody
anyway,
from outside of your family?
and if I did with my outside of my family, it wouldn't have been a problem. The exact form of their lay of their body and all that, not a problem at all.
Let's be honest here, Paul.
Now,
You're not a tier 3 registered sex offender, and Chris is.
I know, and that's why I immediately went to Chris and said, Chris, you can't wrestle. You can't wrestle a boy. You have this cloud over you. That is really stupid. Don't do that.
He
Chris
shouldn't
said,
need to be told
okay.
that. Like, he shouldn't even need to be told that.
Remember I told you about 15 minutes ago that Chris has done some really stupid things. That's what I'm referring to. That's really
this
stupid.
is absolutely one of the stupidest things I could imagine.
Yeah, it's the last thing that he should be doing. And I think it was stupid for him to travel with a young boy. I think that's stupid too.
Yep.
Anyway, Okay, so then the wrestling in the
and not
bedroom,
just stupid, it's illegal. It's a Class C felony.
I'd like to see that information. But anyway, you might be right. It might.
Yeah, sure. TTOR did a show the other day. I'm sure Adam could link it in the description here for everybody to see. But yeah, he walked through the actual statutes in the Alabama State Code, and it is a Class C felony what happened that night for sure.
Yeah, but Class C is pretty light.
No big deal. Just Class C.
It's just a felony. Yeah, no big deal. I don't have any felonies.
Well,
I mean, I'm not bragging. I have been arrested a couple of times, but
it is. It's actually a Class C. It's a Class C that can carry a year in jail.
Yeah, there's prison time associated with it for sure.
Okay. Well, that's not so light then.
No, not at all.
Take it back. Okay, so
Paul,
then the other event, completely separate from the wrestling, is the bedroom event. Okay.
It doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be that.
But you got to remember. You got to remember that when I started answering that question, I was communicating the things that I was disturbed about, and one of them was the wrestling in the living room, completely different time frame, might be 12 hours apart.
Let's backtrack.
Maybe 24 hours apart, and then the bedroom scene.
Let's backtrack just a little here, Paul, because
anyway, that is absolutely what occurred.
All right,
there's no reason for me to make up any story about that. That is absolutely what occurred.
Paul, can you refresh my memory? Earlier, did you say that you're a legal advisor for Christopher Jones?
Chris came to me to have. Kent probably told him that, hey, Paul knows quite a bit about common law and due process and stuff. Go come down here and visit with Paul. He's a good guy. And I think that's how Chris came to me and just started talking to me about his case, because this has pretty much ruined Chris's life. And I don't believe Chris did anything that warranted criminal conviction. I think it's a complete sham.
But you just agreed that what he did in November of 2019 was a felony, and it's more serious than you originally thought. So there's one thing.
And you said you thoroughly reprimanded him when you saw him doing these things.
I want to go back to the video. I've got it pulled up here, and this is Yia asking you a question, and it's not a general question of what did you observe during their stay. It's Yia says, I was wondering if it is true or not. Did you see Chris in bed with a kid? And I'm just going to play this real quick.
Okay.
Did you see Chris in bed with the kid? I'm sure that's true. I'm just wondering if that's true.
I've seen Chris wrestling with a kid, which I didn't think was appropriate, because you just when there's any slightness of that, you don't do that. I'm pretty sure I did, and I said no more of that.
So the question wasn't, did you see them? What did you observe them doing in general? It was, did you see them in bed? And your response was, I saw them wrestling.
Yeah, it might have been that my thoughts were a little clouded, and I was communicating both events, and I should have been very clear about one what happened in the living room and the other happened in the bedroom. I have no doubt that one was in the living room, one was in the bedroom. He was not wrestling no kid. He was not touching no kid in the bedroom. I've never had a word of erection. I've never had a word of anybody touching anybody in the bedroom. I've never had a word that Chris was in any other clothes than what he would normally walk around the camp in, or go to Walmart in. I never had a word about Zaire had any clothing missing. He might have had his shoes off, but he had his socks and his pants and his shirt on every time I ever seen him. I imagine he took a shower there. I imagine he unclothed then, but I wasn't in the bathroom watching him then. But anybody that's saying that I seen an erection or I seen him without any clothes is completely lying, or they had a dream and they're getting a dream mixed up with the facts. I can't tell if a person is lying.
All right.
Hey, Paul, so let's talk about a timeline here. Is it your understanding that the night that you saw them in bed together, that was the first night that they stayed there? That would have been November 23rd from looking at some texts and things?
I really don't know.
You don't recall? Okay, so they were there from,
No.
we know that there was the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, the 26th, and the 27th. The day of the 27th is when he left.
I don't even know if that's true. I don't know what that's based on.
We can prove that with Mark's text messages, that when you texted him on the 24th and told him about last night, that would have indicated
Okay,
the 23rd.
okay.
And you messaged him.
It's very probable. Yeah.
No, it's not probable. It's proven with evidence. It's a
No,
fact.
I'm just saying that I don't remember. In my memory, it could be 2 days, it could be 4 days. I just don't know. But it's good that I didn't hide any texts from anybody. Yeah, I communicated
It's 5
that
days
stuff.
at least, unless they were there before the 23rd. This is proven.
Was it? So that would have been 4 nights and 5 days.
If they
Probably.
Yes, according to the
Okay.
at least, and then we don't know that the 23rd was the first night, but that seems to be the first night. Is that your recollection? Is that the first night Chris was there, you saw him wrestling and sleeping together?
Oh, I have no idea. It could have been the 4th night that they were wrestling, and then
No, it couldn't have been.
I don't
in the
know.
timeline,
I don't know
it's
in my
not possible.
memory. I'm just
Okay.
saying it's impossible for me to remember that. I just know that I seen him wrestling and I talked to Chris about it. And
Okay.
then I believe that the bedroom thing was after, which I would assume that I've already talked to you about wrestling. What the hell are you doing with a boy in your room?
Okay, so what I was trying to get to is by the 27th they're leaving. We don't have any evidence of the whereabouts of Zaire, of anything that happened after
On
that.
a show.
Sorry about that. So Paul, we're wondering. Okay, so on the 27th he leaves. We don't have any kind of evidence of what happened to Zaire after that. Did you see Christopher Jones leave with Zaire, if that is his real name? Actually, Paul, also, can you answer? Is it your understanding that Zaire is his actual legal birth name?
That's what I called him. No, I don't know. That's what I called him, and he seemed to respond to it perfectly fine.
That's what you called him?
Why would I call him any other name than what Zaire? I asked him, what's your name? He
Because you
said
guys
Zaire.
made that name up because it's a pedophile ring and you guys are lying and kidnapping kids and raping them and stuff.
What are you talking about?
I don't think it's fair to say you guys, because that kind of paints a broad picture, and I
What are
can
you
personally
what are you
vouch for-
talking about? What are you talking about, sir? I came in here under
hang on,
goodwill
Paul,
to tell you the truth.
Let me finish. I can
I am
personally
not going to
vouch
talk anymore. I'm
for
not
the
going to talk
character.
anymore. This is insane. This is
Okay.
ridiculous. You told me this is going to be a fair interview. You can't accuse me of something that trash like that. That's just ridiculous. You're not worthy to be.
Well, let me say
rated as
something. Let me
Take
speak
it.
real quick.
Take it back.
Paul.
Take that back and explain why you just said that.
I do think it's unfair to
No,
say
I'm not
all
asking
y'all,
you.
for sure.
Scott, Mark, I'm not asking you. That other man needs to explain why he just said what he said.
What
All
was
right.
it that I said that you want?
Why
me to
did he
take
say
back?
that?
What is it that you want me to take back, Paul?
I think it was.
What are you
all
talking
y'all
about? Some sex
contact.
ring and some made up name.
So people.
What are you talking about? Zaire's some sex name and made up name. What are you talking about?
So that's what a lot of witnesses are suspecting, is that this is a sex trafficking ring, a pedophile ring.
What are you talking about? Where does that come out of Where does that come out of any evidence? That's crazy.
What? Well, there's how many pedophiles are involved with this?
None.
0. Okay, so you don't think that Christopher Jones is a pedophile?
No.
What about Brady?
Not based on what I've seen.
What about Brady?
Probably. I don't even hardly know anything about Brady. It sounds like it. If Brady's son, what is my affiliation with Brady? I have no affiliation with Brady.
Well, both you and Brady have told me that you were working on Chris Jones's case, and independently
I
of each other.
I didn't work with Brady on no. Chris
I'm saying
Jones's
independently
case at all.
Independently of
Yeah.
each
So
other.
what do I got to do with Brady? Brady shows up on camp, paints some buildings, and now I'm tied to Brady. Is this insane or what?
Well, let me explain. So, I'm sorry. Take a breath.
I'm about 30 seconds from ending this conversation because it's kangaroo court. That's
Okay, Paul,
that's what's going to happen here.
Paul, before you go, there's another incident with a child that was abducted and abused.
And I never heard a thing about that until yesterday or today. That's the first time I heard. That's the first word I've ever heard about that. So I have no comment on that at all.
All right, and then one thing else I wanted to ask you about: there are human remains, children's clothing that were found where Chris was sleeping.
Oh yeah.
naked.
Oh yeah. Okay. So Chris is going to come on the air. Some kid's going to show up and get baptized, and Chris is going to go, "Oh, where should I bury him? Man, I got to cover this up. I got to get rid of a body here. What am I going to? Oh yeah, let's put it here. They won't look here. Oh my gosh, this is such insane. This is just insane.
It is pretty insane. Like I want to.
It is pretty insane.
I've never I think I might actually literally vomit from this.
There is no evidence. There is no evidence of no child bones out there. Nothing.
So it is reported. There's eyewitness firsthand accounts that.
Okay.
There were,
show me the police report.
Well,
show me the police
report. You have to pay like $100 to get it. So, but we're working on that. So we will have that once we can file for it.
Think about it. Think about it. Okay, yeah, I'm going to bury a body right here. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, there were clothing found. There was what was claimed to be a human femur bone.
Yeah, claims, probably a cow bone.
Mark, can you help me here? There was a suitcase found, something in a drainage pipe. Cindy Lincoln described it as some very disturbing things that were reported to the sheriff. This was also investigated by the FBI. People were stopped at the airport and questioned about shipping containers and dead bodies. It's very, very serious.
Yeah. Don't link back to that little place I was staying on. I doubt it.
So as far as the human remains and all that, to me that's all hearsay. I haven't seen any evidence of it. I can't speak on that. So, but I do know that testimony is out there, and I am aware of people being questioned.
And Paul, so Mark, you received an email or a text message from Steve saying you guys need to look into Paul and Christopher Jones riding on a four-wheeler with a little boy.
Yeah, Steve sent that, and Steve's a liar. Let me preface that with the fact that Steve is a known liar, like big time. He even admits it. He sent me a message once. He said it's okay to lie to protect the ministry. So just to preface that, let me see if I can find that email.
Well, what is wrong with me and Chris being on a four-wheeler with the Zaire? What's wrong with that?
Well,
you can get four people on that thing easily.
Hang on, that doesn't have anything to do with Zaire.
Was it Zaire that you were on a four-wheeler with? Who were you on a four-wheeler with?
I suppose I've given Mark's child a ride on a four-wheeler.
With Christopher
given
Jones?
Zaire a ride on a four-wheeler.
No.
I think that's the only two that I could think of, but there's probably others.
So do you want to respond?
That's pretty common.
Do you want to respond to Steve's accusations? They were saying, in regards to the Ukrainian boy that was abducted, you guys need to look into Paul and Chris riding on that four-wheeler. Do you want to respond to that, to what Steve accused you of?
I don't even. I have no idea of what. I've never even heard of a Ukraine boy ever before until.
Oh, you didn't in 2016.
Somebody texted to me.
Oh, so you go ahead.
Okay, you want me to remember if some boy was Ukraine 6 years ago? when I go onto that land, and every time I go on that land, there's somebody from a foreign country there.
All right, I pulled up the email.
Come
on. This is from Steve, and I don't even know if you were a part of this exchange. Well, yeah, maybe so. Yeah, there you are. Anyway, Steve writes, "I'll throw one at you. The very first boot camp, I and another witness saw Paul Hansen and Chris Jones drive off into the North Woods at DAL with a young boy from a family that was visiting, all on the same four-wheeler. What were you doing, Paul? Yeah. Because the other witness who saw it asked me the very same question. I did not know what to say. I shook it off. I thought, no way could something bad be happening. It has always haunted me."
Mark, there's people that drive those trails all the time. That's why we have four-wheelers. That's why we have four-wheelers, so we can drive those trails with our friends and young children that enjoy the trip.
Totally.
We didn't go back there and rape anybody. Come on.
Right. Let me finish Steve's email. And again, this is Steve, and I preface this whole thing with Steve's a known liar. He finished the email saying, I think Paul Hansen is a little more than meets the eye. So I hear what you're saying. You didn't have anything to do with that. But it does kind of raise another question I have. How far back does your relationship with Chris Jones go?
I would assume I don't really know. I don't think I would assume Kent's the one that introduced us.
Okay.
And I didn't really get to know Kent very much. I've never. The first time I was at Dinosaur Adventureland was 2016, I think.
Yeah, that was the first time
about
Chris
right.
Jones was at Dinosaur Adventureland as well.
Yeah.
And that's the year that the Ukrainian
Chris was
abducted.
probably there at the same time I was, and we just started visiting. I've dealt with several sex crimes.
I'll bet you have.
Some of them are very, just very lame. If you get charged with a sex crime, you're guilty in the eyes of the public. It doesn't make if you didn't do anything or not. So it's pretty it's a crazy world being accused by that.
Yeah, I recall, Paul. I recall a case you were telling me about where your client was caught with pornography, and you were able to get him off on jurisdictional arguments. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the government only has jurisdiction to prosecute certain cases.
Mm-hmm.
The guy paid me, and I showed him the case law, and he presented it to the court, and they dismissed the case.
But he was guilty.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? No, it's the wrong jurisdiction. The other jurisdiction needed to take it over, and they wouldn't do it.
Regardless of jurisdictional issues, was what he did wrong?
No, it was the wrong jurisdiction.
Okay.
Mark, what's the video that you have here? Is this just a screenshot?
Yeah, this is a screenshot of September 22nd. This is 2016. Here's Chris Jones, and I believe this is just the day before Kent Hovind and Mary Toko were married. So, Paul, were you at Kent and Mary's wedding?
I never did see Mary Toko. That was 2016.
Yeah, that was 2016.
So I probably wasn't at camp until 2018 then. Because
okay,
Mary Toko probably I wasn't there for his marriage to Cindy either.
Right. So if you weren't there until 2018, that would clear you of Steve's accusation.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you have any evidence of that, we'd love to see it, and we would make it.
Yeah, I'm almost positive. I'm almost positive that I would, if Kent was going to marry Cindy, I'm almost positive that I would not attend the wedding because I don't agree with that.
Well, nobody attended their wedding because they eloped. Everybody at camp had told them, "Don't do this. Wait, give it 6 months at least." And Kent didn't want to hear that, so he took Cindy and went off to Tampa.
I don't remember that drama because I would have had a council meeting with Kent and said, "No, you do not marry this girl. Biblically, it's not allowed."
Yeah, and
I don't ever remember doing that.
I know you weren't there at that time because I had not met you yet, but I had heard of you. Yeah. I had heard of Paul Hansen, a lot about you, but sure. Anyway, nothing bad at that time. Kent loved you.
Yeah.
I don't know how he feels about you now, but he spoke very highly of you.
We get along well. He still calls me up for legal needs occasionally. My opinion.
I would recommend completely breaking fellowship with him until he repents. That'd be my suggestion for you, Paul. But regardless, I'm gonna hand it over to Adam.
I'm just saying that there's not much there anymore.
Okay.
And I told Kent. This is what I told Kent. I said, Kent, you need to leave your wife that you're presently married with. You need to go back to Cindy. So that pretty much I'm pretty strong. I'm probably one of the strongest lines of anybody out there on that thing.
Supporting
Go
Cindy.
ahead.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You've gone to bat for Cindy many times.
Yeah.
I have one more thing I want to clarify, and then I'm probably going to step out of here because I want to spend some time with my daughter. It's kind of our first day of summer break. But one of the issues that Kent brought up when I first started trying to find Zaire, I was asking in the group text messages, as a trustee, I would like to, have a better answer than, oh, I just called his mom, he's fine. And that prompted a whole lot of dissent, or not really dissent, but a whole lot of controversy in those text messages. But the Kent insisted that I was never a part of that CSE trust, which we signed paperwork. And the way I see it now, the trust is non-existent as far as that's concerned. But at the time, we did sign paperwork. Kent and yourself witnessed and signed, and I was on that trust.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with that.
Okay. All right.
Now,
Yeah, that's.
No,
that's
I
something
told
that,
I talked to Chris recently. I think it was a week ago. I said, Chris, get a person to go over there and get Zaire on the camera. Zaire doesn't have to know you have the camera on your.
I don't think it would be wise to send Chris over there. I think that would be a mistake.
No, I said, Chris, send somebody over there.
Well, I don't think it would be wise to involve Chris at all.
Go ahead, Paul. Please continue.
Okay.
Anyway, Chris, you know where the guy lives? He lives pretty close to where you live now. I understand. I don't know for sure. It's might be 10 miles away or something. But anyway, driving distance, I would assume. I don't think Chris has moved since then. But anyway, he might have. He might live in another state, but I don't know for sure. But anyway, Chris, send somebody over there, and when Zaire is bowling or playing video games in the arcade or whatever, just walk up and talk to him, and hold a newspaper up while you're talking to him, and get it on the film at the same time so we know the date, and we're good. I said, get that to us, and he said, yeah, I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna have somebody try to do that. And because he said that in no way right now does Zaire's mom want to talk to anybody, because she says it's just her son went down there to get baptized and go to a Christian ministry, and they just turned this thing into a nasty mud ball, and she just sick to her stomach about it.
What is Zaire's mom's last name
too?
What is Zaire's mom's last name?
I don't even
know that.
I never.
Okay.
I never got her first name. I never got her last name. Never got anything other than Zaire from Zaire.
You never spoke with her?
So, no, I never have.
I
never tried or anything.
The parents?
No, didn't have no reason to. I was satisfied with talking to Zaire. That nothing.
You talked to Zaire?
There was no issue there.
When did you talk to Zaire?
15 minutes after I chewed Chris out for being in the same bedroom with him.
But have you talked to Zaire
for half an hour
since they left Dinosaur Adventureland?
Yeah.
And
I think that's the issue.
No, I haven't talked to Zaire. I haven't talked to Zaire since he left camp. No. Oh, the day he left, he gave me a hug, and that's about it. It was just perfectly normal.
To your knowledge, did Kent talk to Zaire's mother?
I'm pretty sure I heard a video where either I heard a video or Chris told me that Kent talked to Zaire's mom, if not both.
So they
but I know Chris. I know Chris told me that. I know Chris told me. Well, anyway, if Kent talked to Zaire, it's going to be by cell phone. The government still has it. It'd be stupid to make that story up because it would be easily disproved. Ever since 9/11, every phone call on a cell phone, the government still has the recording. None of that disappears.
Yeah, that's got nothing to do with this.
No, I'm just saying that if all Kent's conversations are recorded, and all Chris' conversations are recorded, and all my conversations are recorded since the 9/11.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily available without very high level clearances and
I'm just saying
warrants and
that
whatnot.
I'm just saying, if there was a full-fledged investigation, that's the first thing the FBI would look at.
And to my knowledge, it's actually illegal to use that in a criminal proceeding.
And there is an
No.
investigation, is the understanding at this point. But Paul, so
Yeah.
just to emphasize, you said that you urged Christopher Jones to get someone to just get some video or pictures with it, hold up a newspaper and show evidence that he really is there. Is that, would you say that that's what you just said?
Yeah, and when Chris started getting a little resistant about him, I said, Chris, come on, this is not a big thing to do. I don't.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I don't want to dig Zaire into this anymore. I said, this is a wonderful way to get people off my back. I said, Mark Stoney told me that if he could see that, he would just back off completely. And I think Mark would.
Well, Brett Keane also
And he-
requested to have some kind of evidence like that for him to come on camera with a witness or anything like that. A lot of people in the online sphere have been making that request, and you're saying, are you saying here that you spoke specifically with Christopher Jones about this, and he told you, no, I don't want to do that, or your understanding is that he might try to actually finally do this?
No, he gave me the impression that he was gonna try to get somebody to do that, try to get a friend in that area to just meet Zaire when he's walking to school or something, and just walk up and say hi and hold the newspaper up and you're done. 30 seconds, you're done. 15 seconds. You know, that's the beauty of a camera. Get
So,
evidence
but why
real
has
fast.
nobody done that? It's been requested for a long time.
I don't know. I don't think you can just park out in front of Zaire's house and expect him to come out. I don't know. I don't know the situation.
But people have the phone number. People can call the parents. People can arrange this.
Yeah, you told me probably about a year ago.
Chris has asked her to allow him to give her number out. She said no. She don't even want to talk to Chris anymore.
Why is that?
Because her son went down to a Christian camp to get baptized and closer to the Lord, and turned into a muddy mess. She's just like really ticked off about it.
What specifically is she ticked off about? Christopher Jones sleeping with him, wrestling with the clothes in the underwear? What specifically?
He never wrestled in underwear.
Sorry, I mixed those up. Wrestling and in bed in the underwear.
No, nobody was in bed in underwear.
Yeah, that
Okay,
was
so.
Jim
What
Schwartz.
what are the parents upset about?
The same reason any other parent would be. They don't want their son to be asked in high school, why were you in the same bed with a guy that has a sex record? Nobody wants to get 10 miles of that. He don't want to go through his whole life explaining like.
Well, the people at
There's
Dinosaur
nothing-
Adventureland
there was
sounds
nothing-
like they did get within 10 miles of that now, didn't they?
Nobody wants to get.
You guys are
Be
protecting
able-
this guy and calling him a hero. You said you wish that your hero, Chris Jones, would come live at
I
Dinosaur
can't
Adventureland.
make Chris go down there and get this guy on recording. I have no way of contacting Chris's mom. I have no way of contacting Zaire. It's out of my hands.
Yeah, you do. I mean, if you're claiming you're talking to Chris Jones the other day, just
I told Chris the other day, get that recording. It's the best thing to do right now. I disagree with you, Chris, completely.
what about Kent?
any
what,
reason-
what about urging Kent Hovind to do something like, there was a little bit of an online campaign. Hey, we want some evidence of Zaire, and this was one of the main sources was on God TV
I
Radio.
suppose I never thought about it. I think Chris has talked to Ken about it. I don't know. I could do that next time I talk to Ken. I'll try to remember to do that. I'll text Kent right now and tell him that it would be good to get Zaire on
That would be
on a
incredible if
recording
you could do that.
with the
And
newspaper.
also, right now, because Kent might see this, is there anything you'd like to say to Kent about this to urge him? Like, we just want to know that Zaire is okay. We want to know that he's safe. He hasn't been murdered. He has.
Kent. I think Kent would agree that wouldn't be violating Zaire's privacy to do that. I mean, it'd bring a close to everything. That would be a wonderful thing.
Well, it wouldn't bring it close to everything. He still raped him and was in bed with the underwear and stuff. But
there's no evidence of rape.
Well, finding
there's no evidence that Chris touched.
Finding someone in
what
bed.
What are you talking about?
Finding a
what are you talking
predator,
about? This was a camping trip.
Hey, hang on. I got one more thing that I want to bring.
Finding a sex predator in bed with a little boy in his underwear, quote unquote, wrestling with him with an erection, and the boy's scared. That is evidence of a rape.
With an erection, that's a complete lie. That's a complete lie. And
that is
and I believe
you told Mark.
That's a lie. I can say before God that I never mentioned nothing. I never seen nothing like that. I never mentioned it to nobody like that. I never even had a dream like that. Nothing. That is a complete fabricated lie.
Mark?
I've got one more question.
No, wait,
okay,
real quick. Mark,
all right, yeah.
Can you respond to that? He's saying it's a lie. Your testimony is that Paul told you. Can you reiterate? What did Paul tell you the first time? When he in person, he took you to the side in private and said, "Okay, off the record, get rid of your phone. I want you to hear this."
Yeah. So when Paul came and talked to me about that, he did tell me that they were in their underwear and that Zaire appeared to be afraid. Later on, Paul came back and told me that Chris clarified and said they were in their gym shorts. So take that for what it's worth. That's what Paul told me.
Now remember, afraid. Yeah, Chris told me he didn't want to sleep in that other room alone. That's probably why I would use the word afraid. Zaire, when I walked into that room, Zaire was completely asleep on his side of the bed, completely clothed.
Where was Brady in all this?
Chris was on his side.
Where was Brady Byram in all this?
Chris crawled off. Brady Byram don't have nothing to do with this.
Adam, could you pull up my screen? So these are some text messages between us, Paul, and Brady was there. So Brady had talked to Chris, and this was my message to you. I said, Brady was given a third different version of Chris's story, said that Chris told him he only made the kids remove their shoes, and that is what his conviction was based on. I think we need to sit down with Kent as soon as possible and handle this. Also, I feel very strongly that the child should not be alone with Chris. You responded, you said the shoe thing is true. The court said since he told them to take off the shoes in his presence, it was wasting a type of strip. Pretty bizarre. He did not watch the rest of the clothing parts, apparently. Okay, but that's still three different versions of the story, and Brady was not told about any further removal of clothing, just the shoes. And then you said, I agree, we'll ask Chris. Brady should be there also. So Brady Byram was there. We were setting up a meeting with Kent to discuss what had happened and what you had told me and what you had told others at Dinosaur Adventureland, what you saw. So Brady was there. Why? What is Brady's part in all this? It seems extremely unlikely that it's just coincidence that a known convicted pedophile and a accused pedophile being there at the same time with a boy.
I never seen Chris talk to Brady. I never seen Zaire talk to Brady. I never talked to Brady about Zaire. Brady was never over at that house. I have no clue of how he would even be part of this at all. I never knew Brady had any sex charges in the past until probably
no, he doesn't
years
have any
after
charges.
that.
He doesn't have any charges. He was, his son told the story. The family decided to keep it under wraps. Blaine did not necessarily agree with that decision, so he's been speaking out. And he told Kent. He sent emails to Kent. He sent emails to Rhonda about Brady when Brady first started hanging out with Kent, and it was ignored.
Yeah,
so
Brady,
Kent knew about
Brady. Brady at this time was aggressively trying to keep Chris off camp.
So there is another incident with involving a four-wheeler and a walkie-talkie. This isn't a text message between me and Brady, and I don't have that pulled up, so I'll just have to remember. Brady told me, I was asking where was Chris and Zaire, and Brady said that they were on a four-wheeler going to look for a walkie-talkie. And this was in the afternoon, probably about 5 o'clock. And then Brady told me that he was going to turn in for the night and go to bed. And this was before I didn't know anything about Brady then. I was not informed about Chris as much as I am now. But looking back at the whole situation and throwing Brady in the mix and the text messages, and I will look them up if you can give me some time, I can definitely find those. But Brady went to bed at the same time that Chris and Zaire were taking off on a four-wheeler together looking for a walkie-talkie. Or at least Brady told me he was going to bed. So all three of them were not
Yeah, I remember the
supervised.
walkie-talkie. I think Chris bought a walkie-talkie. It's probably $35 or something. They were fairly nice. They might be $10. I don't know. But anyway, they were out riding, and Zaire had one walkie-talkie, and Chris had the other, and they got back. And then I remember Chris saying that they dropped one of their walkie-talkies, and they're going to go back and try to follow the same trails and see if they could find it laying on the trail. That's all I remember about a walkie-talkie.
Yeah, and it just struck me as really odd looking back, and I didn't even realize this until last year, and I'd already been gone for a good long time. I didn't even realize Brady was there, and I was reading through our 2,000 pages of text messages, and I found that, and let me tell you, my heart dropped. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think. I mean, why on earth would Brady be going to bed at 5 o'clock? He usually stays up late. And now hear me, this is speculation. All I'm saying is speculation. I'm telling you how I felt about it long after the fact, only rediscovering the text messages with the new information that I had. And Chris and Zaire taking off alone, and Brady informing me that he's about to take off alone. I don't know. It doesn't set well with me. I don't know. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know, but it does not set well with me. It's too much. It's too much.
I apologize, Mark. You said it's too much, and I'm just getting overwhelmed by this. I want to say, Paul Hansen, you are a sick fuck. You are the scum of the earth. You're complicit in this. Mark, I apologize if that interferes with anything you have going on with Paul, and I appreciate you setting this up, but I just got to end this because I'm going to have like an anxiety attack or something. I really want to thank Mark Stoney for arranging this. I think this was a lot of really good evidence. I appreciate those who showed up in the comments section. And Mark, if you want to add anything at the end, we can wrap up because I got to stop doing this for a minute. It's too much.
I'm kind of with you. I'm not feeling too great.
Like, I'm having a physical reaction to this. I need
and I went through
anxiety med and just chill out and play Tetris or something.
I went through 6 months of therapy with my daughter after all this really hit the fan, and just, man, it's coming back. I'm with you. I got to step aside. I think Paul left, so I guess this is a good time to wrap it up. I mean, I do want to say this. I understand everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't necessarily agree with your evaluation of Paul. I think that Paul is... I don't know. I have a hard time saying anything about Paul. I'm a little conflicted with him. And please understand when I say this. I was great friends with these people for so long, and Brady and I were best friends. And just to find out about that, about him and his past, and it's hard to deal with. It's hard to deal with. And Paul, I don't know if you're still listening. Let's talk. I wanted you to come here and set your story straight. Now I'm even more confused. So I gotta go. I'm sorry. I just gotta go.
Thank you so much, Mark. Paul, I don't know if you're still here. It shows that you're here. Paul, are you still here?
Yes. Can't you hear me?
Any last words?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You had me muted for the last 5 minutes. I've been trying to say something.
Yeah,
for the last
Mark and
minutes.
I got overwhelmed, and we just need to wrap this up. So if you want to say any last words, we're going to close out.
Yeah, I think it's shameful that Mark would even present me in front of somebody like you. That's shameful. Just shameful.
Well, Yeah, well, you're
Just
a
shameful.
piece of shit. You're a scumbag.
Yeah,
You're
just
fucking,
shameful. May
you're
God deal
enabling-
with you. May
You're enabling pedophiles. You're doing legal counsel for this sex ring. You're a piece of shit. You should rot in hell. So long. And I think that's it. So I'm going to go take a chill pill. I actually didn't. I felt uncomfortable about doing this interview because I really suspected this Paul guy sounded like a real vile piece of shit. And this has been confirmed today before your very eyes. So I just got to go. I know that it's not professional to call the interviewee a piece of shit and stuff, but I don't really care because this is just too much. You can't. Anyways, anyone in the comments have any last words? I'm gonna close out. Hansen is an enabler. He's aiding these guys. He's involved. He's making excuses. His memory is conveniently gone when he needs it. It's sharp when he claims he wants to be believed. I mean, there's a lot to process here, folks. Thank you to Big Bad Mama. Thank you to Robert Beatty in the chat. Louis or Luis Dimitri, and anybody else that was watching this. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Goodbye.